Frivolous Podcast, episode 21. I am your host, and we are back. I'm excited to be back. I say that every time. I don't know why I have to make that announcement every time, but we're back. It is October now. Last time I talked to you guys, it was the end of September, and it is now October, which is crazy. We're already almost. It's kind of almost halfway through October. We're very close to being halfway, which is just crazy. I feel like the year's kind of gone by really fast, especially like the last month or so. I don't know, it's just because of like my work schedule has been making it feel like it's been going faster. Who knows? But it's been going by really fast. But I'm excited. I've mentioned many times before, I love October. I love the holiday season. I love this time of the year. Everything becomes really fun to me, in my opinion. And it's been fun so far. I've really enjoyed October a lot so far. As I mentioned, I think it was last episode or episode before that, I was wanting to do a challenge for October with horror movies, and I'm not going to talk about this too much because I don't need to, but I've started. I'm 11 days in. I've watched 11 horror movies. I've watched a horror movie every single day for October so far, which has been really fun. I've been posting it on TikTok, and the videos have been doing okay and somewhat well. I've been getting some followers and stuff. It's just been a lot of fun. I don't care. I didn't do this for I'm going to get famous from this. I just did it for fun. But it's been really fun to talk to people on TikTok that suggest movies to me, or they ask me questions about the movies and stuff like that. That's been a really cool thing to do, and it's been really fun to talk about horror to people I don't know. And that's about all I'm going to say about the subject, just because it's on the TikTok, which I link below, and I don't need to bore you guys with that, even though I am going to talk about horror and stuff like that in this episode, because it's Halloween season. It's October. It's Spooktober, as the kids say. I don't think kids say that, but anyways, yeah, I'm excited. The movie thing's been fun. It's been really cool too, because I feel like there's a lot of horror movies that I haven't seen before. Obviously, there's always going to be a bunch of movies you haven't seen before, but there's a lot of really iconic ones that I haven't seen. And I was always some of them I was too scared to see, or which I'll admit, I was too scared to see some movies, because when it came to super demonic and stuff like that, I had a hard time watching it, or I'd have a hard time getting myself to watch it. I've become a lot better about it now, and it's I don't know if I'm just desensitized to it, or if I'm just more used to it, or I just am not as scared anymore. Who knows? But I've become a lot better about watching that kind of stuff now, and I've been able to expose myself to some really good horror movies because of that. But in the past, there would be some oh, that's too scary, I'm not gonna watch it. And luckily, that doesn't really apply anymore. I think there are movies that are genuinely very scary, but nothing. I'm not gonna be oh, this movie's too scary, I refuse to watch it because of that. I would have to refuse to watch it for a completely different reason than the scare factor on it. But it's been really cool to catch. I guess you could say I've been catching up on horror movies, because there's some that I've watched that are kind of not. I don't want to say classics, but they're talked about a lot. And there's some I watched Insidious the other day, and that's a franchise now. There's 5 movies out from Insidious, and there might even be more on the way. I don't know, but it's I had never seen the first Insidious. I had not seen the first movie that started this entire franchise of horror movies, and I felt that's kind of that's crazy that I haven't. There are other ones that I haven't seen that I don't plan on really watching, which might upset some people. I've never seen Halloween movies, and I just don't have an interest in seeing them. I'm sorry. You get to the point where you have. We should have been done by a movie 3 or 4. We're too many in right now. And same with the Friday the 13th. I've seen one of those, and it was the most recent one that had Jared Padalecki in it, and it wasn't good. And I've also seen I haven't seen Nightmare on Elm Street, which I do kind of want to watch the first Nightmare on Elm Street, because I've heard that's really good. But other than that, I don't have a desire to watch that franchise. I just think I'll be honest, and I think I said this last episode, but just the older horrors just don't scare me. It's just I don't I'm not gonna watch the original Exorcist that's from 1956 or whatever. I'm not gonna watch that. It's not gonna scare me. It may be iconic because it's the first of its kind, and it's paved the way for what horror is today. Sure, I'll give you that. But personally, I just don't want to see it. And here's why. Here's what I'm gonna say. You may be mad at me, or how could you say that? But hear me out. So when one time, so I'm a big movie guy, as you guys know. And one time, when I was working back at the pizza place years and years ago, I had a coworker who was telling me oh, dude, you've got to see The Wizard of Oz. I can't believe you've never seen The Wizard of Oz. That's a classic movie. And it's I think it was the first movie in color. If not, it was one of the first movies in color. And he was like, dude, you got to see it. It's such a good movie. And I was I don't know. I don't really want to watch it. I know what the story's about. It just doesn't intrigue me, right? And he finally convinced me to. So I watched it one night, and I was just like, I had it on my computer and I was doing other stuff, but I was watching it, and oh my god, I hated the movie. I shouldn't say hate. I really did not like the movie, and I don't know if it's because I felt like I was forced to watch it or what, but just like I was like, I don't need to be watching this. I don't like. I can acknowledge that it's a classic without personally seeing it myself. Like I can acknowledge like what it did for cinema and what in this case what it does for horror for these movies, but like I don't personally have to see it because I am more than likely not going to enjoy it. And maybe that's controversial to say, especially about a movie like The Wizard of Oz, but I just personally didn't enjoy it. And first of all, it was such a long movie too. I just was kind of waiting for it to be over. And then second of all, I was just like, I knew the story already. I just hadn't seen the movie, so I was just kind of waiting for it to get there, and just I don't know. I was not a fan. And so that right there is a big reason why I'm like, I'm not going to go back to watch these super old, like, original ones. I mean, if we get to the 80s, that's cool. Like, 80s I can deal with, even though it's still pretty cheesy, but I can deal with, like, horror movies from the 80s. Not going to scare me, but, like, I understand that started a lot of, started Halloween. It started a lot of these classic ones. But you get anything older than that, like I said, The Exorcist and things like that, like Nosferatu and Dracula, I'm like, I'm not going to watch these. I'm sorry. Like, again, thank you for what you've done, but I'm not going to do this. So, again, maybe you can hate on me for that if you want. I don't really care. I don't think I need to waste my time with that. I really don't. I've already watched a ton of bad horror movies this month from doing this challenge, and they're not from the 80s or 90s or 50s. They're from, like, 2008. So, I don't need to waste more time with that. And, like, I don't know. Modern horror is very good where it's at right now, and, like, obviously we got special effects. We've got the blood, the gore, the way that things can look so real and everything, like in the jump scares, like it's all very well done right now. And like to go from that, then to go to like, Nosferatu, I'm like, I'm good, but thank you. I like the only really, not really, this isn't really old, but the only older horror movie that I haven't seen that I actually genuinely want to see is The Evil Dead, the original Evil Dead, which is from the 80s. And they made a few of those, but I want to see the original Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. I've actually seen the remake of Evil Dead. I think it was on Hulu or Netflix at one point. I saw that years ago, and I didn't even, at the time, because I was new to horror, I didn't realize it was actually a remake. And I actually thought that movie was pretty good. And then I found out, obviously, later that it was a remake from, like, a movie in the 80s. Like, oh, okay. But, like, I genuinely want to watch the one from the 80s, but I don't feel that way really about, like, the Halloween movie or anything like that. And I don't know why. Like, maybe I should give the first one a chance, but I've had friends that have watched the first one and they're like, it wasn't very good. It's just kind of cheesy, which it's like, it's going to be that way. And I just, again, when you have 15 movies of Michael killing people, it's like, hey, what are we doing? Like, this is just getting old at this point. Like, Jamie Lee Curtis is on her last legs. Like, why? We can't be having her running around and avoiding Michael's knife all this time. Like, let's let her relax, please. Can we just let her relax? Like, she can have her yoga, her Activia, and just like take a chill pill. Like, this is not fair to her. So stupid. Speaking of horror, there's been a lot of. So I think it came out in between this episode and the last episode. But there's the Dahmer series on Netflix by Ryan Murphy, the creator of. I think he created Glee. I know he was involved with Glee, but mostly known for American Horror Story. And obviously Evan Peters plays Jeffrey Dahmer in the TV show. It's kind of been on the front pages of like some controversy because of, it's like, is it glorifying killers? Is it, it's making these families relive the trauma and they have to go through it again and have these memories again and this and that. And usually when there's internet outrage, I'm usually not on the internet side because typically it's always for just really trivial things, and it's usually people that are making it a big deal are people that aren't affected by it. But I will say in this case, I actually am on the internet side here, and let me explain. And first of all, before I even explain, I don't want to take anything away from like the work that the people on the Dahmer TV show have done. I think Evan Peters' acting is really great on that show. I haven't finished it. I think I'm only 2 or 3 episodes in, but I think he's done a great job. I think the writing's great. I think they did a good job with directing. I think the show is great. Like, just let me just get that out of the way. I'm not trying. This is not anything against the people that made the show, but I just think that you make these shows about these real life killers and then you make them so accurate. You make the apartment look exactly the same. You make him say things that are similar. You make him go through these situations it's just like any family member any family member of a victim of Dahmer's like sees a clip on the internet, on YouTube or TikTok or wherever, it's like it's PTSD. It's gonna trigger that trauma for them, and it's just gonna make them remember. I mean, not that they've forgotten, but it's just gonna ruin their day. Even like I know if like I had a family member that was murdered by a serial killer who probably ate them, I wouldn't want to be remembered about. I wouldn't want to be reminded about that all the time. I would like to forget about it as much as possible, even though you would never forget that. So I get it. It's definitely is a bit of glorification, and it's not Ryan Murphy's fault. It's not Evan Peters' fault. I'm not blaming any of them. I mean, the show's done extremely well. I mean, we're watching it. The ratings are good. People eat that stuff up. That's not puns not intended there, I promise. But like it's people enjoy watching that kind of stuff, and so it's like, well, I'm gonna make this show that I know is gonna make me money and it's gonna do really well. Like I might as well. And so it's like I have a hard time blaming them. And I especially like Evan Peters. I mean, it's an acting gig. It's a job. I mean, he likes to play, creepy characters on American Horror Story and stuff like that. So I'm not trying to place blame on any of those people, but I just think, documentaries are one thing. I think documentaries are totally okay, by the way. I'm not saying like we shouldn't talk about serial killers at all, because I do think it's good to know things about them. I think it's good to know, like, all right, what did they do? How did they lure people in? What was their tactics? Like, obviously things, how Jeffrey Dahmer operated in the, 80s, 90s, how he operated back then is not necessarily wouldn't apply to like a serial killer today. But it's just good to know those things, and there's nothing wrong with being educated about that stuff, because as bad as it sounds, it is history, right? Like, so I understand the documentary side of it, because you can hear it from the cops' perspective, you can hear it from like detectives and psychologists and whomever, right? You get to this TV show and it's like, all right, we're gonna pay these people to reenact basically all this bad stuff that this really horrible human being did, and in some ways, honestly, like there are some scenes that I feel like they kind of try to make you feel bad for Dahmer a little bit, because he obviously didn't have a great life growing up. And by the way, I'm not excusing anything he did. So this is not like, I'd be like, oh, it makes sense why he acted this way. No, it does not make sense. He's a horrible person, or was a horrible person. But like, you saw his home life, and his mom and dad had a horrible relationship. They're constantly yelling. He had a surgery that kind of messed him up a little bit. They had, there was this constant like issues going on around, and he just didn't fit in. He's kind of the weird kid and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, are you trying to make me feel bad for him? Because I don't feel bad for the guy who killed a ton of people and became a cannibal. Like, I don't feel bad for that. I can empathize with the fact that he had a tough childhood growing up. I can feel bad for that aspect of it, but I do not feel bad for Jeffrey Dahmer, because a lot of people had bad childhoods. I know people that have had horrible childhoods, and they don't eat people. They don't murder people. Like, I mean, it's all about how you react to it. So I just think it needs to stop. You can enjoy the show, but I would really like this, and I worry this is going to create a trend, but I would really like this to be like the last of a serial killer TV show we have. That's not, obviously, if you have like an original idea, like for example, the TV show You, that's not like a real serial killer, so that makes sense. But in this case, this is a real person with real victims. Like, are we just forgetting about the fact that like real people died and their families are still out there and missing them to this day because of this guy's actions? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to see like a Ted Bundy TV show starring somebody. I don't want to see like a John Wayne Gacy TV show, or a TV show about the BTK killer or whatever. Like, I don't want to see any of that. Like, I just, like, give me a documentary, sure, but as soon as we get to like these TV shows specifically about them, it just gets a little scary, and it's like you're feeding into what they want to. By the way, obviously, like those guys are dead, but like they were narcissists. If you're a serial killer, you're a narcissist. I feel like that's pretty understood. It's like you're feeding into what they want. They want attention. Now, not only were you talking about them then, you're talking about them 40 years later. You're giving them a TV show. You're like bringing up these memories and stuff like that. Like, oh, thanks. Like, thanks for keeping my name alive in my memory. Oh my goodness, stutter. My memory alive for longer. That's awesome. Thank you. You know what I mean? Like, it gets a little sketchy there. So I'm not trying to cancel anybody, by the way. Again, I'm not going to be like, this needs to stop. We should start a hashtag on Twitter. I'm not, but I do empathize with the victims of the family. Oh my gosh, the victims' families. I don't know what, I got stuck on the word empathize because I thought of the word emphasize, and I was like, wow, those words are really similar. I really do have ADHD. Sorry. Anyways, I just wanted to talk about that super quick because I as somebody who loves like true crime, and I do find documentaries about serial killers fascinating from a psychological perspective. Usually I'm like I'm like okay with stuff like that, but this is one I'm not. This is where I put my foot down. So so stupid. Anyways, I don't know where I'm going with half the stuff I'm saying. I am having a great October, as I've said. I'm not going to talk too much about the horror movies I've watched because the TikTok's going to talk about all that. Maybe like after October's over, I'll maybe rank a couple of them, not in a rank up, but just like I can say what my top 5 favorites were and whatnot, because I am interested in doing that. That would not be a bad idea. I have been working, obviously, and let me just say it. Something that bugs me about kids, and like, I'm not trying to be rude. This isn't going to come off as rude, but kids will do this thing. So we'll be grading like math papers, right? Be like, all right, the answer is 473. Then a kid will be blurt out, be like, oh, I got 646. Hey, man, it's wrong. Like, I don't know what to tell you, but it's wrong. Like, there's no, especially in math, like, there's no way around it. Like, you either got that number or you didn't. Like, I don't get, they say it confused. You're like, oh, I got 646. Okay, you did something wrong. You did something wrong, and it's okay. Hey, listen, we've all messed up in math before. We've all messed up on a lot of things before. So there's nothing wrong with getting an answer wrong, but it's like, don't try to be like, is the book wrong? Because the book's not going to be wrong. I'm sorry. The book's not going to be wrong. Like, I don't know why it bugs me so much. I just want to be like, hey, if you didn't get the answer, just mark it wrong. You know what I mean? We know this drill. We've been doing this. We're 6th graders now. If you didn't get the 473, guess what? It's wrong. If you got 472, still wrong. Like, there's no wiggle room on that. I don't know why. That's just like a little pet peeve I have, because it's just like, if it's like English or science or social studies or whatever, like I can get it, because like there is a bit of wiggle room, right? There is. All right, I was pretty close, but not entirely there. Does this still count as points and whatnot? I understand that. But with math, it's really, you either got it or you didn't. There's not a whole lot. It's either black. It's basically black and white. Like, that's for the most part. Obviously, there's some cases where it's not, but for the majority of the cases, it's that how it is. So I just think it's funny. And I mean, I might have been the same way as a kid. I'm not like trying to say that I was above that when I was a 12-year-old. I might have been just like that. You never know. But I don't know. I find it very funny when they do that. Also very annoying. I'm just like, can we, let's move on, please, right? Like, you got it wrong. That's okay. It happens. Mistakes happen. We're just going to keep on keeping on, and we're going to be good. Okay, so I'm a little annoyed. So I'm wearing a hat today. I'm wearing a hat with like a flannel, which is kind of a weird look. I mean, not really, but like the combo I got going on right now is a bit weird. I will admit that. But the reason I'm doing it, I got a big old pimple on my forehead, and I was like, all right, I'm going to wear the hat because like that'll make sure that the hair stays on it and covers it up. And then I just looked, because when I record this, I have my thing down so I don't get distracted by looking at myself, because sometimes I just can't focus like that. And I looked up just now when I went to take a break to drink some water, and my big old pimple was exposed. So that's cool. That's fun. That's awesome. I'm on a new face stuff. I added something to my skincare routine. My dermatologist gave it to me, so like my body's reacting to it right now, so it's getting used to it. And obviously when you try a new skincare regimen or lotion or whatever for your face, you tend to break out a little bit in the first few times. So that's what's happening to me, and it's fine. But I got a big old bump on my head, and thought I was covering it up with the hat, and I wasn't. So that's cool. That's fine. It's whatever. It's cool. It's fine. It's whatever. I don't care. Listen, guys. So I have a little bit of news, and it's not, you guys aren't gonna care really, but I'm officially, I've mentioned this before, but this is like legitimate now. Officially starting a sports podcast. It's not gonna be just me. It's gonna be me with 3 other guys. 2 of them have been on the podcast, Eric and Jose. The third one is my friend Josh, who I've mentioned before on the podcast. And we're gonna be doing that. I don't have a date yet. We're making logos right now. We're finding intros, outros. We're doing all that stuff right now. But by the end of the year, we'll have it. I mean, it'll be way before that. Should hopefully by the end of October. But we're gonna be doing that. I'm super excited about that. So if you like sports, I hope you check that one out, because that'll be cool. It will not be under the Frivolous name. It's gonna be a completely different thing. It's not gonna be connected to Frivolous at all. Like I'm not gonna reference either one. It's not like this. It's gonna go up under the Frivolous like brand or anything like that. Like Frivolous isn't a brand. Why did I say that? You get what I'm trying to say. But I'm just excited. I wanted to mention that because I've talked about it before. And again, if you don't like sports, totally okay. If none of you want to listen to it, that's totally okay. But I am personally excited about it because sports is something I'm very passionate about. I love sports, and my friends love sports, and they also love arguing with each other. I'm not really an argumentative person, but they are. Well, two of them really are. Well, the third one kind of is. And so it's just gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to just like mess around with them and talk sports with them. So excited to announce that. It's gonna be cool. As for October plans, I'm still gonna be doing the horror thing every day. I'm gonna try to do a Halloween special. I should be doing a Halloween special. Who knows? That week's gonna be so busy for me. I'm going to a wedding on Halloween, so that's gonna be busy. But I'm gonna try to do that for you guys, and then I'm planning on talking about like some serial killer cases. I'm not gonna do that this episode, but I think so. Next episode, and then the Halloween episode, I'll talk about some like spooky stuff. Maybe not serial killer cases. That was a bad example, but maybe I'll talk about a case of a killer, or like maybe I'll talk about like a folk tale. Is that what they're called? Like an old, like a supernatural story, but like it's supposedly real. You know what I'm trying to say? I guess it's a folklore. Just like I'll talk about some creepy stuff. That's all I know. That's all I know. I want it because I want it to be I want it to be kind of themed a little bit. And we'll see. We'll see if I can get people to come on too. Again, it's really hard to schedule people in right now, especially weekends are pretty busy, and like it's fall. It's a bunch of stuff happening. You got pumpkin patches happening. You got obviously you got a ton of stuff going on right now. So it's kind of hectic. So I apologize for that. So I do want to get people to come on the podcast again. So I'm gonna be trying my hardest for that to happen. And I know the episodes have been a little bit shorter, and this one's gonna be a little bit shorter as well. But I would rather give you a quality short episode than to give you like a poor quality like long episode, or to just not give you an episode at all. I would rather not do that either. So I'd rather give you something than nothing. So that is why episodes have been a little bit shorter. I've just been working on. This whole horror movie thing, like horror movie every day. I've been working really hard on that and like very consistently doing that. And so that's kind of taken a lot of my energy, a lot of my focus is what I meant to say. So I do apologize that I haven't focused as much on the podcast, but I'm really enjoying the horror movie thing. It's been really fun. And speaking of horror movies, ladies and gentlemen, that leads us to our rank up for the day. Yes. We haven't done a rank up in an episode or two, maybe more, but I know we didn't do one last episode. And this one, you can probably guess what it's going to be. We're doing best horror icons, not movies, not TV shows, not anything like that. We're doing horror icons, which is basically horror villains, very infamous horror villains, that even if you don't watch horror movies, you kind of recognize and you know their names and whatnot. So we're going to rank them, and we're going to see how it is. I think this is a shorter rank up. I don't think it's a huge list. I didn't make this one, so that you can't get mad at me. You can get mad at me for who I pick, but you can't get mad at me for not ranking it. I think that's all you need to know about it. I do plan on doing my personal favorite horror movies at some point for a rank up. I think that would be a good one. And I also want to do, I don't know, maybe I'll just rank horror movies in general. Maybe if I have a guest on for Halloween, I'll rank horror movies in general. We'll see, because obviously my favorite's going to be different than somebody else's favorite, and we'll see. So, okay. The first one we have up is, this is a weird matchup. We have Freddy Krueger, who Nightmare on Elm Street, obviously, versus the Leprechaun. And if you don't know, Leprechaun somehow I think it was the 90s. It might have been late 80s when the first one aired, but I think it was 90s. They made the 4 or 5 movies, not in a row, but like they made like 4 or 5 movies every couple of years of like this Leprechaun that would like kill people. And I don't remember which one it was, but I started watching one of them with my friend, and I was probably in 9th grade, and I think it was the second one. And I kid you not, this guy, there's a black guy with a big afro in it, and they're in like this weird like underground cellar thing, him and some other guy, and they come across the Leprechaun, and I kid you not, this black guy is pulling out a million things from his afro, like as if it's just like I don't even understand. Like, if his hair is just a pocket. Like, he pulled out his comb, which makes sense, but he pulled out, like, a baseball bat. And my friend and I were just like, how is this happening? Like, I thought this would be a horror movie. This is, like, we thought it was, like, legitimately satire, and we stopped watching the movie. Like, after the leprechaun attacked them, we're like, all right, we're not going to watch this. And the leprechaun himself is kind of just, I don't know. I mean, it would be creepy if it was real, but, like, I don't know. And Jennifer Aniston's in one of them. I think she's in, like, the fourth one, which is crazy. I don't know, every time I see the leprechaun, I just think of the scene with the guy pulling a baseball bat out of his afro, and that's the only thing I remember. He pulled out like 4 other things that were ridiculous, but I just remember the baseball bat. I'm gonna pick Freddy Krueger. Honestly, if you're going for classic, Freddy Krueger is one of like the top 5. Is he one of the top 5 that you would think of? I don't actually know. I don't know if he's top 5 that you would think of, but he's definitely up there. All right, this one. Oh, this is a more recent one. So we have The Nun from the Conjuring series and from the movie The Nun. I don't know what her name is. And then we have it's the I don't remember the name, but it's the girl from The Ring that crawls out of the TV. That's, I don't know if she has a name. She probably does, but I don't remember her name. Funny enough, I've never seen The Ring. That's one that I do want to see, though. It's on my list, I promise, but it's not available anywhere right now. It's like not on any streaming platform that I currently like own. So I can't watch it. But I have seen The Nun, or not The Nun. I've seen The Conjuring. Is The Nun in the first Conjuring? I don't even know. I've only seen the first Conjuring in that series, too. I haven't seen any of the Annabelles. I haven't seen The Nun, and I haven't seen like Conjuring 2 or 3. And I think they're making a 4th one. I don't know. If I had to go for iconic, I would say, honestly, like, even though I haven't seen The Ring, I might lean towards The Ring, because I know for me personally, when I would just like see clips from The Ring, it would creep me out. Like, I would see clips from The Nun, and I'd be all right, whatever. But like, just something about the girl with like, her hair's covering her face, and you just can't really see anything. Also, the way she crawls is just, oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm gonna go with her. The picture that's here, by the way, she's like crawling in her. It just looks disgusting. So, All right, this next matchup, this is fitting. We have Chucky versus Annabelle. Now, this is tough. I've never seen a Chucky movie either, and I've never seen the Annabelles, as I just mentioned. And here's the reason I haven't seen Chucky. First of all, I don't want to say this is bad karma coming my way. The doll movies don't scare me too much, though, especially like Chucky, because he's an older doll movie, so like it's not gonna scare me from the 90s or whatever, or 80s. Also, my fiance just hates Chucky with a passion. Just like, it's a personal. I'm not gonna go into the story of it. It's not my story to share, but just like a personal thing with it. Just she hates looking at it. It just creeps her out. There's a personal like scarring from her childhood, so it's like I'm kind of biased against Chucky for that reason, because obviously, like, I'm like, oh well, then screw Chucky if like that's how he makes you feel. And so I've never fully understood like the obsession with like killer dolls, and I know Annabelle's a doll too, so don't get me wrong, but like for movies at least, I like if they're real, because there's rumors that they're like killer dolls are real, like I get that, but I don't know, like just the thought of like Chucky just running around with a friggin' like axe, it's just like, really, like just like he's just I don't know. I haven't seen the movies, and I know he's like some supernatural, celestial, like godlike being, and he can't die or whatever. But still, it's just, I don't know. I'm gonna go with Annabelle. I think Chucky is more iconic than Annabelle, but my personal prejudice against Chucky lost it there, and I'm gonna defend my fiance all day. So Chucky, you can take the L, buddy. All right. Oh, this next one is actually this is two iconic ones. We got Jason from Friday the 13th, and we got Scream from the movie Scream. Oh no, it's Ghostface. That's his name. I'm an idiot. Ghostface from Scream. Well, like I said, I've only seen one Friday the 13th movie. I've actually only seen 2 of the Screams, but the first Scream is so good. It's one of my favorite horror films I've seen. It's very well done. It's also got my boy Matthew Lillard in it. Shout outs to Matthew Lillard in it. He did such a great job in that movie. I'm going with Scream, or Ghostface, sorry. I think you can flip a coin on which one's technically more iconic, but I just personally, I like the story of Ghostface better, because Ghostface it changes each time, right? Like the Ghostface in the first Scream is not the Ghostface in Scream 3, because it's a different characters that play it. And so I like that aspect of it, as opposed to Jason, who is supposed to be human, but then like somehow he can't die, and even though we've seen him die a million times, he doesn't die. It's just, it gets very messy and it just becomes dumb to me. Like if he's human, make him human, and if he's like some supernatural Thanos like being, then let's make him that from the get go. Like let's not have him start like this in 1975 and then 2008 he's now unkillable. Like it's just dumb to me. All right, we have Freddy Krueger versus the girl from The Ring. When was the last? I wonder when the last Freddy Krueger movie was. They have not really done a lot with that franchise. I feel like, which I feel like they could probably try to reboot nowadays and maybe find a little bit of success. I don't know, but maybe they saw what they did with Friday the 13th and they just decided not to. Because Freddy Krueger and Jason themselves had like what 2 or 3 movies with each other. It was like Freddy Krueger versus Jason or something like that. I'm gonna go with. I want to go with the girl from The Ring, but realistically, Freddy Krueger. I mean, like, even if you don't know horror, you know of Freddy Krueger for sure. And you might know of the girl from The Ring, but you know Freddy Krueger. So, next we have Annabelle versus a Ghostface. Ghostface, easily. All right, so championship round. Wow, there really aren't a lot of options on these. We have Freddy Krueger versus Ghostface. I'm going to go Ghostface, personally. Ghostface, they're still making Scream movies to this day. I remember as a kid, when I went trick-or-treating, I was probably like 8 or 9. And I went to the mall and you just walk around to the stores and they would hand out candy and stuff. I remember I walked by somebody with like the ghost face mask on, and I didn't understand what it was at the time, and I thought it was so creepy. And the mask itself had like fake blood in it. It was very cool, like when I think back on it. But I remember it just creeping me out so much. And I don't know. I love the Scream movies that I've seen. And like I said, they're still making it to this day, which is if that's some longevity there. And should they still be making it? That's a question for a different day, but I think a lot of people I feel like Scream is better liked than Nightmare on Elm Street movies, but again, maybe I'm wrong. All right, next side of the bracket, we have, okay, this is an interesting one. Leatherface, which is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, versus, I don't know his name, but it's Jack Nicholson's character from The Shining. Is it Johnny? Because he says, "Here's Johnny." Is that? I have never seen The Shining. I've seen the one that came out recently with Doctor Sleep with Ewan McGregor in it, which is a phenomenal movie. And it's like the sequel. It's not really a sequel, but it's like a sequel to The Shining. I honestly if you think about. I mean, first of all, that scene from The Shining where he cuts through the door with the axe and he peeks his head in is one of the most iconic movie scenes of all time, horror or not, just in general. As for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Leatherface, I mean, he's kind of everywhere too. I mean, he's in video games. There's how many movies about him. But here's the thing. All of his movies suck so bad. I mean, you guys know how I feel about the one that came out, I think it was this year. It was so bad. I'm honestly going to go with, and you can hate me all you want, but I'm going to go with The Shining, the guy, Jack Nicholson from The Shining, because that scene alone is so iconic. I think that scene just outweighs anything that Leatherface has ever done. Yeah, there's been a bunch of movies about Leatherface, but there's never been a consistent series for Leatherface. It's all right, we'll have a movie come out in 2007. All right, now we'll have a movie come out in 2009 that's the same type of movie, but we're just going to make it 2 years later for some reason with a whole different cast. It's just super inconsistent, which isn't Leatherface's fault, obviously. Leatherface isn't real, but it isn't the character's fault. But it's just if you can't have a consistent storyline for at least a 2 to 3 movie, set, then that says something about you, in my opinion. So I'm going with Jack Nicholson. You can hate me if you want, but I also think Leatherface is overrated. I've seen 2 Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, and I really slurred that word, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I've seen 2 Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, and I thought one was the worst horror movie I've ever seen, and I thought the other one was just not great. So next up, we have, I haven't seen either of these movies, but I really want to see this one. We have the guy from Trick or Treat, which he's wearing a burlap sack. I've never seen that movie, but it's on my list, and I really want to see it. Versus Hellraiser from Hellraiser. Another movie I haven't seen, but that's a classic that I actually do want to watch as well. And they actually just remade that one, and it came out on Hulu a week ago or something like that. But if I'm going to watch it, I'm going to watch the original because I doubt the remake's going to be as good. I would say, though, I would go with Hellraiser. I have seen masks of him when I was little. I've seen so many things that have to do with Hellraiser, with all the nails coming out of the head. Like that. At Trick or Treat, I hadn't really heard of it until 2 or 3 years ago, which I know it's been out since 2009 or 2010, but I'm going to go with Hellraiser because I think if you're going for an icon, it's him. Oh, this is an easy one. We have Pennywise, and it can be any Pennywise you want. This one's showing the Bill Skarsgård Pennywise, but if you want the Tim Curry Pennywise, you can have it be that too, okay? Whatever floats your boat. I personally really like the Bill Skarsgård Pennywise, so that's who I would probably go with as a preference. But he's versus this is the chick from The Exorcist. It's the girl that becomes possessed. I don't know what her name is either, but she's from The Exorcist. And that's an easy one. I'm going Pennywise all day. That's not even that's a slam dunk from my guy Pennywise. That's easy. Next up, we have wow, this is two heavyweights as well. We have Michael Myers versus Jigsaw. Well, the guy, but Jigsaw, Billy the Puppet, whatever you want to call him. I don't remember what his character's name is. The character in that, but yeah, Jigsaw, the guy behind Jigsaw. Want to play a game? That guy. So this is a tough one because personally, I love the Saw movies. I love the Saw movies. Not all of them. The first one is one of the best horror movies I've ever seen. The second one's solid. Third one's okay, it's all right. We're okay. It's all right. And then fourth and fifth and sixth, like all right, guys, come on. And then they had the one with Chris Rock and all that, and it was like, all right, what are we doing? I didn't hate the one with Chris Rock, but it wasn't the best. It was like it was your typical Saw movie, and I think that franchise just needs to be probably done for like 20 years or so, and then maybe we make a new one, or maybe like come up with a different way to do it as opposed to be like, oh, this is like a protege of his or whatever. Just like, let's just do it way past where it's like there's a guy who's like similar to Jigsaw, but he's not quite like Jigsaw. You know what I mean? Like it's a new, instead of Billy the Puppet, he uses something else. And like, I don't know, that would be more interesting to me, but I digress. And also the Saw movies, listen, they make me so mad because in the second and third one, especially, the characters that die in those movies or the things that happen in those movies are so preventable if they actually just listen to the guy. If they listen to the things he says, he always tells them, and he's always truthful. He literally always tells them like what to do, and they never listen because they don't trust him, which is fair to a degree. But they never trust him, and then they always get themselves in these really bad situations. In the third one, this cop literally didn't listen to the things that the guy told him, and he ended up doing the opposite, and he ended up getting himself killed. And then got two other guys killed. He got his partner killed, and he got another guy. Spoiler alert, but it came out years ago, so whatever. And it's just so like you're watching that, and I just remember being like dumbfounded. I was like, dude, if you just listen to him, and I get it would be hard to trust a guy like that, but it's like, what other choice do you have at that moment? I mean, I don't know. Like, it's so frustrating. And the second one too, like the cop gets kidnapped because he doesn't listen to it's just so frustrating. And then you have Michael Myers who has 25 movies himself, and they're still making them for some reason. And he's like, it's like, dude, at what point do you just let go of your grudge? You know what I mean? Like, what are we still mad about, Michael? Like, what are we doing? Huh? Like, just go to therapy. Why are we taking it out? I think it's his sister or whatever, or is it his mom? I don't know. Like, why are we taking it out on her? Like I said, let's let Jamie Lee Curtis rest so she can have her Activia, just relax. We don't need to be chasing after her and stabbing her, okay? Also, didn't he burn in like the 10th movie or whatever, 9th? I don't know I don't even know what one they're on anymore. He burned like 2 movies ago, and yet he's alive. Like wasn't he human at one point, and now he's just like not human? Like what is going on? Just give me a consistent like timeline, please. I'm going Jigsaw. I think Michael Myers is overrated. I said it. You can be mad at me, but I think he's overrated. Okay. I'll hear you in the comments, I'm sure. All right, now we have Jack Nicholson from The Shining versus Hellraiser. I mean, I'm going Jack Nicholson. Agree or disagree, I don't care, but I'm going Jack Nicholson. Oh, dude, oh my goodness, this is 2 of my personal top 3 favorite horror movie, like villains / horror movies in general. We have Pennywise versus Jigsaw, and that's really hard for me. I don't know. I honestly don't know what I'm going to say here. Like I said, I personally love both of these villains, and I love the It movies. I don't love all of the Saw movies. I love like the first 2. But I just love the concept of Saw. I think though, oh man, I really don't know. In my opinion, there's not a wrong answer here. So don't get mad at me if I pick the one that you don't want to win, 'cause I don't think there's a wrong answer here. But I think I'm going to go, I don't know. I think honestly I'm going to go with Pennywise. Just because Jigsaw has 7 movies or 8 movies, however many it is, does not mean he's more of an icon than Pennywise to me. Like, I think, but the way Pennywise gets beaten in the second movie is kind of it's not great. That second It was a good movie, but the way that they beat Pennywise is just such. I don't know if that was written in the book or if like Stephen King had anything saying it, but it's just god awful. They basically like bully him, and it's like, what are we doing? So that does lose him some legacy points. But then I will say the cool thing about Jigsaw is that he's just a regular dude who's like, he's just being petty basically because he's like, I got diagnosed with cancer, and you guys are out here wasting the life that I wish I had. I wish I had more time left, and you're wasting all this precious time that you have. Well, I'm gonna make you regret not appreciating the time you have. You know what? I'm going with Jigsaw because he gives you a little bit of a life lesson. So if you survive or if you listen to him, he at least, you at least learn something. But most people don't survive, so I don't know why I would think that. And then the final matchup, or not final matchup, but the final matchup on this side of the round, or this side of the bracket, is Jack Nicholson from The Shining versus Jigsaw. It's Jigsaw. And then the championship matchup is Scream versus Jigsaw. I'm going Scream. I don't have to think about that. I think no matter what beat, whether it was Pennywise or Jigsaw, I think Scream would have won either way. I think Scream is arguably the most iconic horror movie icon, I guess it's to say, horror movie villain. I think when you think of horror movies, he's definitely one of the top 3 that you think of. I think I mentioned that about Freddy Krueger too, but like it's hard. You think about it, you got Freddy Krueger, you got Ghostface, you've got Jason Voorhees, you've got Michael Myers, you've got Pennywise, you've got Jigsaw. Like there's a lot that could really be up towards the top of that. So I went with Ghostface. So agree or disagree, I don't care. It's my podcast. So I think there's a lot of good choices for that one though. So I think there's a lot of different ways that one could have gone, especially if I had seen more of the older horror movie icons and movies, maybe I would have felt a different way. I think that's going to be it for me though. I've been talking for a while. I appreciate y'all for tuning in and everything. It's been fun. I love talking about spooky stuff with you guys. Next episode will be just the same, more spoopiness, and then we'll have a Halloween episode as well. I don't actually know. We might not have an episode till Halloween. It depends, because it's weird because this episode's gonna air the 12th, and then there's an episode the 26th, and there's supposed to be an episode on Halloween 31st. So I might not be able to do 2 more episodes this month. So be on the lookout. So just know if I don't have an episode the 26th, that means that it's gonna come out on Halloween. So do not panic, okay? Do not panic. All right. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I'm wishing you guys good mental health. Have a good October. And if you go trick-or-treating or partying, whatever the heck you do, be safe, doing all that. And I appreciate you guys tuning in very much. I'll see you next time. Peace.